Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, and alongside me tonight on our typical Tuesday evening fare, I have RDB from the Great Midwest, and we are talking about Season 1, Episode 9 of Tulsa King, the season finale, starring, of course, Stallone, who, RDV, I want to mention here with my opening thoughts as people start piling in the chat, is that we've talked about how this season seemed to changed a little bit from the first couple episodes to the middle and how it got serious these past few. And I appreciate that. It feels like for the first, couple, like say 2 or 3 episodes, it's kind of goofy fish out of water.
Mhm.
Then 4, 5, and 6, it was setting things up. And then it turned into the show I wanted it to be because I got to say this. There's not too many surprises, I think, in this episode as far as what actually transpires. And I do think the whole season was just setting up a bigger picture. I appreciate how some people really got strong at the end. Um, my only minor complaint, which I'll dive into, is just what I consider to be the weakest character, and that, of course, would be the pseudo kind of Irish arms dealer, whatever guy.
Walton Goldtrip.
Yeah, and we'll get into that too. But overall, I got to sit there and say I thought this episode was one of the fastest moving. I certainly appreciate violence when it's done right and graphically in an intense moment. We got that here, just like we did earlier. It's certainly not trying to be Reacher and doesn't need to be. But overall, I love this episode. I'm satisfied with the way it ended. I'm really looking forward to season 2 and all that. What's your initial take on the season finale of Tulsa King?
Ah man. So I went into this. I did not realize it was a season finale, but so I figured at least be one more episode. But I'm thankful it wasn't just 8. I hate when it's just 8 episodes and they had to rush. So the being 9 was kind of like a sweet spot for me for this, especially for this season. Uh, Going into it, man, I had no idea what was going to happen because we see Chicky shows up, and he's there, and Dwight just says, "You know what? I'm my own man. I don't need you anymore."
You know what? Let me pause for a moment and then I'll give it right back to you because I'm pulling up at the episode guide. And I'm wrong. This is not the season finale. It
It
says we've got one more
Wait,
episode on the
is it?
15th.
How
10
can it?
episodes.
How can it not?
It feels like an ending, doesn't it?
We get it 3 months later, like after
Yes.
after the bar fight.
I
So wow.
apologize, sir. Please continue.
So yeah, Chicky decides to show up, throw his and throwing his weight around. What he calls him Kojak.
And half the people don't even know Kojak, but we'll let that
That
go.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because Dwight is 70 freaking years old, 75, 76,
Hmm.
So people who are following, people around close to his age are gonna know who Kolchak is, even people in their 50s, or late 40s. Anyway, so getting back to this, so basically he says, Dwight, I'm done with you. I don't need you anymore. At this moment right there, I'm thinking, because his one of the guys, um, Chris Cadovino, the actor, his character walks over and sides with Dwight. And this I'm thinking, like, oh no, Chicky's gonna go back to New York and he's gonna, take Dwight's daughter hostage or something like that. He's gonna cause chaos. So I'm thinking like, oh, this is gonna be really bad. So as we move forward, basically we because this is the aftermath. Basically, Stacy, the ATF girl, got shot. She's in the hospital. Dwight goes to see her after he gets out through a lawyer that basically says you have nothing on him. He didn't have a gun. He didn't shoot anybody. He was just there. Uh, so Dwight visits her hospital, sees her doing, gives her a kiss on the forehead, and leaves her. So this is when it starts picking up for me because we get to see more of Bodhi. Bodhi in this decides to, as they talk, um, he says, "Hey, Bodhi, I want you this. Can you hack into this? This guy's his counts up.
This is a little
Bodhi's
too easy, though, don't you think?
yeah. Well, it's like I said, this isn't the season. Something else is going to happen. So this was like a side plot. But they wanted to get rid of this guy. So obviously, so Bodhi, who basically is an internet startup guy, is able to hack in and steal all of Walter or not, sorry, not Walter, Colton Waltrip's, the biker guy, steal all his money. And while he's doing this, the FBI is trying to hack into the guy's account, and they're watching, and they see all the money goes zero. And then at the same point, we pan over to the bar, and they see Walter Col or whatever it is, Colin Waltrip, swearing because all his money's gone. So I was screwed. So now he's going to go after Dwight. This is the setup. This is the end game for these guys. So Dwight had got everybody together in the bar and he said, "Hey, this is it. Either you
He
either
rallied the troops here
yeah,
with this
he
big
did.
speech.
Yeah, dude. And I said, either you're with me, and it's okay if you don't need to. If you can't stomach it, that's okay. But if you want to hear, we're gonna fight, fight, fight. Basically, like it's like a what was that? Any given Sunday speech, El
Yeah.
Pacino. Yeah. So yeah. So this leads to ultimately to we get Genesis. Phil Collins playing in the background. I can feel it.
You know
It's like
what an odd choice of music, and I say odd not because it's bad or not fitting, but when I think of this, I go back to the early '80s with the Miami Vice, and I will tell you, Miami Vice was a cultural phenomenon in the '80s, and I'm
yes.
not joking about it. But what made it really interesting was you got to understand at the time MTV had only been on for a couple of years, and the idea of merging music and video together was still relatively fresh. And when you put something like a TV episode where you didn't know what was going half the time except for cocaine and bad guys and Crockett and Tubbs or undercover, and you
Yep.
just felt it with Michael Mann. With the wet streets, this song would be playing them driving around night. People fucking ate that up, and it never got old. It was incredible. And when I
Uh,
saw this, I went, "Oh
yeah.
my god, why'd they choose this in Tulsa?" I thought maybe they got like some Marty Robbins or something. I don't know, just something more cowboyish.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the first time I've heard of them music. As far as back in the day, yeah, Miami Vice is one of them. You had John Johnson, and then you had the guy from the Eagles. I can't remember his name, something Fry,
Glenn Fry,
Glenn Fry. He had
Smuggler's Blues.
yep, yep. And you hear that playing, it's like, oh my gosh, it just really amps up the scene. And same with this, we've all heard Phil Collins in the air tonight. I see what you did. I know what you did. It's all been a pack of lies and stuff. And what better for a whole bunch of criminals, And it's just like, everything's coming to a head right there. The big old gunfight, and then you just see Stallone walk over to the guy, and not like that's all like 1, 2, 3, and he kills the guy. No, uh, it stretches out a little bit, and then he goes after Waltrip, and Waltrip's gonna pull the gun on him, and Stallone just backs him into the antlers, and kills him instantly, and then to make sure he's dead, I guess, or whatever, he just fires his gun again, his snub 45,
Yeah.
and yeah, sprays it over, and that's more aesthetic. I guess let's make it look more appealing to the viewer. I guess see the blood spray,
Well, let's talk about this here
because normally he wouldn't do that.
I don't disagree, and I think the fact that we had gotten the flashback for why he went to prison, saving the guy in his own way from the fire that with Chicky, and I
Eastern,
thought
yeah,
this really elevated everybody, and we got to see how Armand kind of freaked out and he froze, and how it makes sense that now he looks up to him. And I thought it was interesting because we knew there was going to be a confrontation. Maybe we weren't
yeah,
sure with what groups.
yeah,
And to me, the biker gang's easy fodder, and unfortunately, it's probably still the weakest element to me. And I just thought, well, they got the money from somewhere. I still think there's a bigger plot at work here. And I think we've only been teased with the first season by the biker gang. I think it's just a giant red herring. I wish it was a little more intense because these guys were not intimidating. But the fact that you had some of the dopey guys try to shoot up the bar and then get whacked pretty easy, I'm like, you guys are second rate. What the hell's going on? And it didn't work. And when they have the bar, and then he gives them a speech and they all stay. I thought it was really cool because you mentioned before how Insecure Girl comes in there and is a part of it.
Grace, yeah,
But I have to be honest and say this. I have no problems with the graphicness of it, and I didn't mind the shotgun. I thought it was very sloppily edited. The music, some of the scenes of people getting shot, like you could definitively tell who was shooting who, and you never really to me got that scene at the end where you could say, okay, XYZ's dead, why ABC's injured, everybody else is okay. It felt like it was over, and the fact that it happened kind of in the middle, not at the end,
yep,
it was very jarring to me because again, when I look everywhere online, I see that there's 10 episodes, but this feels like a season finale because to your point, we get to 3 months later. But to pause before we continue, let's back up and talk about what we mentioned at the beginning of the season with some of the characters because you had brought it up, and I thought it was an interesting take back then. Hey, not all these people are going to survive, right? So who's going to go? And I
mhm.
thought Stacy herself, even though she got shot, I'm like, she ain't going nowhere. She's going to be
No,
the biggest thorn in his side, perhaps at some point. And there has to be a mastermind behind them, which I still think is Dana Delaney. I don't know that. I just go, well, she's a smart woman, and women are in charge like that, can kind of keep a lid on things. But what was your take on the fallout there? Like, as far as who would live and who would die, were you surprised by who got shot? Were you
I
surprised
was
at how easy they took everybody out? What
so
was your take?
we get a scene with basically with Tyson and at the bar, and he's cowering, and Dwight says, "Here." Grace comes over. She shows up here, protect him because Tyson's choking. And then before this, even the thing he said, Tyson, dude, you don't have to do this. It's like you can still. He's like, he's like, and Tyson gives a speech. He's like, you know what? I could die in a cab, driving a cab anywhere. It's like, I basically live my life just basically going to one thing and then coming back, and this same thing over and over. I hated it. I'm my own man. I can do stuff. I want to prove.
I thought it was an interesting moment of
So I
self-awareness,
thought Tyson was
because
going to
he's
buy
like,
it.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say, your point Tyson specifically says there, I'd go to work and I'd be kind of numb. I'd come home, smoke some pot, and go do it the next day. And he goes, now I'm like, whatever. I'm like, this is pretty good.
So I thought after that speech, before the bar fight, and then you see Tyson and behind the bar, I thought Tyson was going to get shot, and then we're not going to know if he survives or not, and then you have to deal with his dad or whatever or something like that. So obviously that another thing, same thing too. I mean, is his Dwight's daughter going to survive? Is Tina gonna get killed?
We're going to have to, I think, get
Yeah.
more emotionally invested in her in season 2 before they whack her.
Yeah.
God
Armand.
forbid anybody goes after the kids.
Armand. As far as we know, he could have easily been shot. There's also the kid. We used to call him Dreadlock Boy. Cultural appropriation. He's the one that used to work worked with them at the weed shop with Bodie.
Right.
I thought, he was there. I thought he was going to get killed. There's so many people that that could have got whacked. Mitch didn't get shot. But it's overall though. Before the whole, that's another thing I want to point out too, is that Barry Corbin was back. Yes. He's living with, and he's I guess he's Mitch's dad or something like that, or is it or someone is really good friends with. And he said and Barry has he basically he asks Smith. He's like, dude, can you trust this guy? He's like, well, I know when I came out. It's just I had this feeling when this guy approached me. I knew, and I just knew I had that feeling that this guy was gonna be good for business, or whatever, even though I know what he is, I feel I can trust him,
It was another good little speech.
Yeah.
The one thing we mentioned about Dwight, and some of the criticism I've seen online from various people and outlets about the show is, okay, you go, okay, he's supposed to be a bad guy. And I guess we automatically assume he's a bad guy because he's with the mafia and he killed somebody. And of course, we see how he killed somebody and how he's a bad guy. We haven't seen anything else. But I've said, that's kind of being petty because it seems like, Tulsa's ripe for somebody to take it over. And the thing is Dwight, to me, for the most part, has been a very good judge of character, despite even being locked up for 25 years, whatever it's been. And so the people that are on, they're not with him because they're like afraid of him. They respect him. They respect how he's treated them as a human being. And they know that there's nothing free. You don't get anything easy. Nobody comes in and shows you how to do stuff. But if and he's a straight shooter, which is said in more than one way, I think, in the past episode or two. And so his group, he's the Pied Piper in a way, and these people just follow him. That's just who he is and what he does, and you can see it and you can believe it. So that's why we're rooting for him. And a lot of people, I think, get lost on that. But I will say that it makes this show to me a bit more attractive than some of the other ones, because even if you like Kevin Costner, or you like Harrison Ford, or you're trying to use other Sheridan shows, I don't know if you get a feel for the interactions between them as much. And that's not a knock on him so much. It just, maybe it's because I'm a Stallone mark that it's pretty easy. But he's not winging it. He's not sleepwalking through it. He's got these people and they're ready to die for him, we think, most of them. But I think you were right. I think a few of them had to cull the herd here a little bit, so what relationships remain become stronger.
And I think yeah, by next season we'll probably become more of the herd. Um, I want to say hello to Undead Quinn. Thank you for joining and watching us tonight. Usually Undead Quinn watches us over me over on the Geeky Puppet Show.
Oh, is that
And
right?
yeah.
Right.
He's talking about the in the air, is overrated. We're not really overrated. Not let's say overused. He says, and I kind of agree it is overused, but I think it actually fit well here. The problem is that people take songs and they put them where because they think it sounds cool, but it's not. It doesn't fit the actual movie or whatever plot's going on. Honestly, I hope if we go to Miami, I hope we get some more like 80s movie. That's what I want. And then bring in Don Johnson as a a
He can
U.S.
still
Marshal.
do it. He can still do it. I'm telling you, he can.
I know.
Yeah, the general's the appropriate name, and his leadership style is something I appreciate because it's no nonsense. It's a situation where, you know, you can make decisions, but they're always going to be the right ones, but they might be the best ones with what information you have. And he's basically taking people that basically need to be told what to do. But I don't know if they're all wimps. They all have their own strengths. Like Tyson wants to be a role and he wants to serve. So he's doing it and he explains why. We get it. He's got the co-bar owner, the guy singing the songs at the end. We know that's probably going to be a big role. He's a competent dude. We still don't know a lot about him. Bodie, I still have my question marks about. And then, of course, I forget her name, but I called her Insecure Girl. All of a sudden, now she's kind of strong. Grace. She came in and she all of a sudden becomes a superstar under the right circumstance. So for Dwight to see that ability in people, the key talent's not seeing it in people or getting people to do something. It's putting them in the best position they can to be successful. And for some reason, he's able to do that well.
Grace took out at least two guys.
Yep. She did. She absolutely did. Yeah, and was good at it.
The funny thing is that prior to this, before we learned that she can shoot, Dwight would always call her Trigger
because she would get triggered. That's a good observation, right? That's like an inside joke, because she's so mousy and that she wore the one dress.
I wonder who came up with the idea. That was like a Stallone thing. It's like, why don't we just call her Trigger? Like, and like, oh, that's cool.
Jane Wayne. They just explaining the joke, which she doesn't get. That's what's funny.
I know.
Okay. So it brings us to the jarring last act where we get a 3 months later.
Well,
and how things are different in Stacy.
Before we get to that, there's one more thing we didn't talk about.
Go ahead.
After Bodie stole the money, Dwight had what's his name? Tyson go to the hospital, leave a get well card with a thumbnail, basically a thumb drive.
Yep.
For Stacy, the ATF girl, and she opens it up, and so the chick that she has over like $1 million or something. I think it was either $1 million or $1,000. I think it was $1 million. So
$1 million.
So. And she's kind of so we don't know where take is, but then this makes it so much more irritating, much more sweet of an ending, because after 3 months, she shows up again at the bar. Yeah. This time with her cops, and they arrest
She
Dwight.
did it smart though. Hey, can she's outside. She wants to see you, and he goes out there. She didn't go in. She had him come out. What a friggin' sucker! Oh, damn it!
And Tina was there too. Remember we were worried about Tina, Chicky. Tina was at the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tina is at the bar. She's like, and he sees Dwight in the car. He's like, so "You're not again. You can't do this again." And he's like, "I'm sorry, Tina." And they drive away.
I don't think that's the end of Tina and him, though. I think Tina's won over. I do.
Yeah, Tina. Yeah, of course, Tina's totally won over. She wouldn't have showed up, and she would have came there. I'm just happy that freaking Chico, whatever, not Chico, but Chicky,
mm-hmm.
Didn't get a hold of her, because remember he's the one that caused the whole problem with originally that caused Dwight to go to jail because he was beating up a guy without approval.
He went psycho on the guy in a very scared way. So Chicky's stock is rising at the end of the season. It really is, and I think that's been a good arc.
Yeah, because remember in the flashback, because we talked about it a little bit before, but not really detailed. Chicky had a guy, and it was beating him up, and it kind of looked like Paul Reiser almost.
I was going to say, you're right. It did look like Paul Reiser, a younger Paul Reiser.
And he's handcuffed to a heater in a unit in an apartment, and then Chicky's gonna burn him. He's it didn't mean he basically had a he's got what you kind of call it when they basically put the tag on you, the cows. Yeah, he's gonna do that. He's
Random.
got brand them. He does it, and then what happens is the candle gets knocked over. Dwight shows up, and then they're trying to put the fire out, and they can't get the handcuffs off. Chicky flees. Armand, because Armand had called Dwight, and Dwight basically shoots the guy because he's not gonna let you say, I'm not gonna let you burn to death, brother. You know. So this shows you how messed up Chicky is, and now it makes it more believable why he would kill his father like that, because he's always been a little shit. Anyway, so I'm so thankful that Chicky wasn't involved. But then he's saying that Chicky might be he's definitely gonna be back season 2. I wouldn't be shocked if he does, because
he's gonna be.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
Right,
you don't say he's crazy. You don't say no to me. So he's gonna bring more guys, and I'm still saying that guy who basically left Chicky's outfit to join him, the Chris Caldivino actor,
right,
for The Sopranos, he's gonna betray Dwight.
I still think it's Bodie.
I know. I think Bodie's the red herring.
Bodie's smart enough to go, I can fuck him, but I can do it on my own time in my own way. And look, let's back up for a minute. Let's talk about the first episode and the whole setup. We've got some really dumb people running guns, and they get caught, and it seems like it's an afterthought. The guns have to get produced from somewhere. I don't know if they were doing drugs also. I just thought it was guns. Remember the guy let the dogs out? Somebody has to be behind all that. I don't think it was some peon here. You don't have 8 million or whatever the number was that got stolen, moved around, which the number of quote unquote crypto that Bodie had was quote unquote almost the same amount that Irish guy had. That's intentional. They showed that to us a few times.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying this. I think you're reading too much into it, though. I don't think it's going to be. If you do find out, it's if they even do play out with Bodie betraying him. Bodie's just going to be the guy who survives at the end, as Dwight's laying in a pile of his blood, and he's not going to betray him. He's just going to run. He's a cockroach.
Where I'm going with this is the bigger picture. These little things. Okay, we got the little people out of the way. The money still has to come from somewhere. There still has to be an intelligence, and when I say by that way, someone making decisions for that all to work. That just doesn't stop. You've got Dana Delaney that we don't see too much of, smiling and being all prim and proper. So immediately you can't trust her. Like Undead saying in chat about never trust the feds. That's absolutely true. Yep. I still think she's probably going to end up helping out and dying maybe in that season, because I think, and I'm just throwing this out there, what if the whole arc of this whole thing, if it's like, say, 3 seasons, has to do with the feds illegally running guns? And that's kind of why these things happen, because I still think there's more than one plant. I just don't think Bodie's going to cross them. I'm wondering if Bodie's a plant. You don't just know what Bodie knows and you sell a little bit of pot on the side as a front. You don't. You've got that kind of skill set. It's extremely valuable. The government comes and finds you for that. So I'm looking at going, there's going to be, I think, a higher governmental thing. But I think in season 2, we're going to get a taste of that. And we're going to get a taste of Chicky. And then I think the last bit would be finishing off the government, whatever happens with the family. And I do agree with you. I think as we close this out, whether it's season 2 is the final or 3, we're going to be left with a lot less people.
Yep, and this is the season finale. The episode 10 was conflicting reports online, but 10 was not going through with that. 9 is actually the finale.
Okay, so it was the finale. Okay, yeah, it was conflicting to me, but it felt like a finale, and let's treat it like that. My final thoughts. Great episode. I don't think it was the funnest episode, and I think there was some choppiness in there with some of the editing and what they did, and it was a bit jarring. But for a finale, it makes sense. I think they finished on a really, really strong note, and you can sit back and go, oh, if I rewatched it again in 6 months, things at the beginning probably would make a little bit more sense to it. And I liked it. So it was very clear in what it was trying to do. Just some of the goofiness early on, I wasn't the biggest fan of. And once they got rid of that, it really picked up steam for me. What about you?
From the very beginning, it started out kind of weak for me. But I mean, as we went through, it picked up really a lot of steam. And then, especially by the end, I'm kind of glad that we continued to watch this, and it just proves that Stallone is a better actor than most TV show actors. He's just got that it factor, and he brings it to the TV show. And I'm sorry, Kevin Costner, you're not a Stallone. Uh, you don't
What does
bring
that
that.
have to do with anything?
Well, no, Kevin Costner, it did. He's the one that's doing the Yellowstone thing, the same guy, and I just don't get that. I tried watching Yellowstone, and I just don't get that kind of excitement watching Kevin Costner in a western than I do watching Stallone being a gangster in a western.
And the thing with Costner, a lot of people liked him. I didn't hate him. I was indifferent to him. But as he'd gotten older with some things he did, I liked his understated approach to it, which he brings to Yellowstone. I actually like him now in his older age. And it's the same thing with Pierce Brosnan to me. I wasn't the biggest Remington Steele fan because I thought he was a bit prissy and I wanted more macho. But I've really appreciated Pierce Brosnan, from his late Bond days on, actually. And so you get someone like Stallone, who's kind of macho now, having to do this on TV, and he
Yeah,
doesn't have to. I agree with you. He does have that certain kind of it factor, and a lot of the people I think that don't like the show want to don't. I think they want to not like it because of the hey, yo, I'm Stallone. I'm a macho guy from the 80s. I blow shit up. I talk like this. It's not about that, you
oh,
know.
it doesn't fit their check boxes. What they expect. The people who basically don't watch the show are anti-capitalists, and they're easily triggered, and they're mad that this show actually isn't leaning one way.
It's certainly not, and you've brought that up before. And Dad's saying that I barely watch TV shows. It's true. And RDV, you and I really intentionally don't watch television and talk about it. We do all sorts of movies and different things.
Yeah,
So we usually save that for Professor Pixel and I, but this was just a special occasion. So definitely a very good one. I'm looking forward to
not
next year doing it too.
not many shows that I watch that I actually that aren't for review. I mean, we can keep up a show. We review shows on there, 2 shows, maybe because they're comic book stuff. But this is one of the shows that I just watch at my own time, and I just like, dude, I told Rob we should just review this.
Yep,
Same with The Old Man because they just came out of nowhere.
true. We did like that one as well.
RKO, bro, out of nowhere. Dude, like it's Old Man was great, and then we get Tulsa King. It's like, well, can we go for the trifecta? Where's the third one coming out? It's just like, oh, it's just great because the last time I watched a show as great as this was probably Kolchak the Night Stalker.
We did do Kolchak, yeah. I will say this one last comment about, was it Stacy, the Fed? I don't have a problem with what happened there at the end. I don't
No,
think it's a weak thing.
but where did the
And,
money
and the
go
fact
to
that
that she
she's
had?
and for the fact that she's acting a little bit more controlled crazy rather than, whiny crying crazy makes her kind of hotter in a way. You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
because he bribed her with the money, but did she keep the
I
money
don't think
though?
he bribed her. I think he felt sorry for her for putting her in that
I,
situation. Remember, he
I
visited her
but
earlier.
remember, she's crazy though. So maybe she thought it was a bribe, and that's why she turned on him. Or maybe
She knew it
or
wasn't.
maybe this isn't her turning on him. This is her basically helping him get out of the jam because they planned this.
No, I don't think so. I think
I don't
and
know.
she said sorry when he left, but she knew what she was doing. She was all
So
about herself.
so who's gonna break him out next season? It's gonna be Dana Delaney.
When this season goes to do season 2 and we go to review it, we're going to do our predictions at the beginning of the season. I like that. I didn't even think about it, but yeah, that's right. He'll be in jail.
Because
But
remember,
how
goes
many
back
times
to
will they try to kill him before they get him out?
I know, but remember we said Dana Delaney. Why is she there? She just owns a horse ranch. That's it. No, it
It's
has
a
to have.
pass-through operation, bro. She's
Yes,
running Tulsa.
if she's running Tulsa, she's gonna get him out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree on
Yes,
that.
and then he's in debt to her.
All right, do you want to briefly state what you got coming up next here once we finish this stream?
Yeah, at 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. I'll be over on the Geeky Puppet Show talking about the comic books that are coming out this week. So tune in for that.
That's the top 5, right?
Top 5. Yep.
All right, nice. Anything else?
Not for the nights. And then next thing I'll be doing something. It'll be a Thursday night. Will be the follow up to the top 5, where basically we go over the books that we got and see if the same books that we chose for the top 5 books of the week are still their top 5.
Also on the Geeky Puppet Show.
Yeah, on the Geeky Puppet Show. It's also at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. So the Thursdays at 9 Eastern.
right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Geeky Puppet Show at 9 Eastern. If you're into comic books, check that out. That's a small channel that just launched. It's growing rapidly. It's pretty impressive when you're that sort of thing, and they don't get bogged down in all the minutia that a lot of other major channels there too. So it's totally different here, and like that, I would call that extreme.
We
And
do like
with that note,
yeah. I was
what
just
were
gonna
you
say real
say?
quickly. I was just gonna what we do on there. We do like 3 things. We do like TV show reviews, comic book reviews, and then just we read comic books. So that's
What
pretty
it's all
much it.
about.
Yep.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 9 of Tulsa King. Next week, we'll be back to movies, RDB and I, to be determined at this point. If you got any suggestions, let us know. Thanks for letting people know that we exist. That's the best thing you can do besides sharing time with us. We really appreciate it. It's always good when you do that. Have a good night. And as always, stay extreme.
See you later, guys. Hit that like button. Subscribe.